as China has been, I think, the epicenter of this whole coronavirus outbreak, that we have been through, I think, ahead of most of the world, this moment. I think very much the large part of the world was, in my view, very much like in late January and early February in China. There is a tremendous uncertainty. Things are changing every day. That actually put a lot of stress on people. And certainly that transcends to the job market as well. That we've seen the huge impact on both on our member side and also on our customer side. I think if we look at the industry, and the jobs that have been lost the most are like small and medium business, the SMB side. And also if we look at the entry-level jobs, those are also the part that being lost the most. I think it's over 90% of entry-level job, junior level, that we've seen have the most decline. And when I talk about the SMB, we also saw, I think, over 80% of drop in the job posting from SMB. And so that's on the job posting, and we're also seeing on the member side on our platform, there is less job engagement. Those are measured usually on our platform, like by job views and job applies, and that has sharp decline as well. And I think overall, they're having a huge impact on the job market on both the job seeker side and also on the employer side. That's very much expected. The good news is that we have seen all these job market, both in terms of the member engagement and also the posted jobs. The number of posted jobs are actually bouncing back. So I think we have the data throughout, but the most accurate data we have already are like through the end of February, about like 4 weeks after the Chinese New Year. We've seen like half of the industry now posting more jobs than before the Chinese New Year holiday. And so they're led by industry like those transportation and the logistics, like real estate, and also like construction. So those are the industries that seem to be bouncing back more quickly than others. But overall, that we've seen that they're coming back. An interesting point is that on our site that we're seeing the top, posted jobs by the number of posted jobs. The top city, Wuhan, is actually among the top 10.
Why do you think is that?
I think that it's just looking at what we saw, that the number of jobs as posted in those industry, like construction, transportation, and logistics. I think those remain in the areas that doing like the disaster relief or things like that would need most of the helpers.
So, Jian, it's very interesting. I know that you came from the Silicon Valley and you have been working in China's tech space at the very frontier for many years now. And so a lot of people, including myself, I would say that we do not necessarily see LinkedIn today as a job-seeking site. There is a very interesting social media element to it all. So, for example, there are a lot of people just talking about, voice for LinkedIn China. And then we have very strong opinion leaders, and now it's becoming very vibrant, particularly because of the coronavirus. And so now we're starting to see, even from my personal experience, this Camp China, Camp US, and then people debating about, the governance measures and the health aspects of it. And so from that perspective, for LinkedIn, do you actually necessarily see LinkedIn today competing in China's social media space? How do you define the role of LinkedIn today? Is it a social media platform? Is it a job-seeking platform? What exactly is it?
I would say that it's probably both. So in terms of the social aspect, I think LinkedIn is a platform or community for professionals. It's not like a broadly social networking site, but mostly for professionals. And that actually is true, in the US as well, right? That's how LinkedIn is different from like a Facebook, for example. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But in China, I think there is a very solid demand for jobs. And I think the notion of professional networking is not so much as it is in the US. So most people still think that, LinkedIn is a place that they can find a job. And that's actually pretty true, particularly for, I think, senior people. I think in the US, it is also true. It's more like for the opportunity to find people on LinkedIn, right? For the senior people. So if you look at this from another view of what LinkedIn is, you could say that it's what we would call it's a platform for a personal professional brand. Right? So each of us may have a professional brand, and that may be characterized by your profile on LinkedIn, also by the connections you have. Right? So it's I would say that it is when anyone is building a professional brand on LinkedIn, being active on the platform, being a thought leader, for example, and have a well-connected professional network is also helpful.
You have done a lot of research also on the coronavirus, if we come back to this topic, when it comes to numbers and new work models, working from home, etc. So how do you see the corporate culture develop in the future, and what kind of business models do you see?
It's quite interesting that you ask for this, just because we are a multinational company. We have like offices, all over the world. So our teams here are very used to this remote collaboration. Like we almost that every meeting we have, we probably would have someone dial in remotely, either from Europe or from US. But that's not generally true for a lot of domestic companies. And I think if you would recall that last year we had this 996 kind of 996 ICU kind of debate and the discussion. I think 996 was implemented mostly because people are working in office, not remotely. Most of the domestic companies have this attendance check, like a card punching that you need to check in and check out, and that's how they count. How many hours you've been in office.
And Jack Mark got a little bit into hot water there, because mental health is, of course, really important as well, and we have to be aware of the burnout syndromes as well. So that was not a very healthy proposal, isn't it?
Right. And also, I think it's just to the point that we're discussing about this remote collaboration and the flexible hours, that think about it, in the past months or so, most of the Chinese company, domestic or MNC, their workforce was required to work from home, right? And how would you manage the workforce and their work when a company is used to just managing the entire team on site with that 996 kind of a pace? And that's actually a challenge for a lot of companies then to our, because our team are used to this remote collaboration and relatively flexible. For example, we don't have those card punching the attendance check,
yes.
In order to make sure that someone is in office for like 10 hours. No, we're not doing that. So I think for us, we adapt more smoothly for this remote work from home than most of the domestic companies. So in this, if I were to give some tips, to the domestic companies, I think first that in terms of how you manage the team, how you manage the work, you need to have this mentality that people can work from anywhere and can work in flexible hours, not being tied in office for 10 hours, right? And also, I think it stays to the importance, like for your team to stay connected and stay informed. And of course, that there are a lot of tools, like during this coronavirus outbreak, all those collaboration software and the platform, like Ding Talk from Ali, and also the enterprise WeChat from Tencent, and also I think Lark from ByteDance. Those are like competing for the customers during this time, just because of the really big demand for this remote collaboration and remote work. So I think all these companies now figure that these probably would continue for some time. I mean, even when we get back to normal, that some people, months from home, they say, well, that actually didn't reduce my. It's not so bad.
It will be difficult and challenging to get them back into the office eventually, because people might get a little bit lazy
right.
and feel comfortable in their homes.
Right. I think it's also a practice, in some company that they may be forced, as I said, that they were used to having all the people in office tracking their attendance. And now I think they will find out, well, first, that whether the productivity has dropped significantly. If yes, how do they work with this kind of new norm of flexible working and remote working kind of method? And so I think then come back to what we just said, that like stay connected with the team, let the team stay informed. And I think it's also very important, instead of doing attendance management, that they probably need to have more like a goal-driven, task-based management, right? It is, for the modern days, like particularly in the internet industry as we are, it's not like the assembly line that if you stay there for 10 hours and watching the assembly line, you get your productivity up. It's a lot of work using your brain. So I think it really matters for the management to figure out how to keep the team productive and also focused. So what we have found out also what helps is that if the management can kind of reprioritize the things and let the team focus on maybe fewer things that they may be able to accomplish more.
And there are so many new apps that can help as well. For example, there is Monday.com, where you see which team member is working on which task and which project and so on. But what I've noticed is with colleagues that basically everybody CCs everybody, copies all the emails for everybody, just to show that people are actually working, right? Not to give a wrong impression that they're basically going back to sleep.
Right. I've seen that. I had personal experience working with a large internet company before I joined Nanking. And so that company, just like many other Chinese company, had this attendance check. And also there is a kind of benefit, associated with that attendance check. Like it says that you could have your taxi fare reimbursed if you leave work after 9:30 during the night. So some people just wait there, until the 9:30, and then they check out because whether you can be reimbursed is tied to the record that when you check out from the company.
I think perhaps we have reached a point of no return. I think the world has fundamentally changed because of this public health crisis. But Jian, tell us for LinkedIn China, what is your goal for 2020?
Well, we've have a very big goal for our both member growth and in terms of engagement that we had a plan to bring it to the next level. Particularly in light of we just surpassed a major milestone to reach the 50 million member base. We've made some adjustment things, and I kind of want to give you a kind of example of, on the product side. So this is really in the context of this fighting the coronavirus. So LinkedIn actually has a social impact, a signature program we call LinkedIn Coaches. It used to be just an offline event that for our employee to give back to the society by coaching some underprivileged youth or students, for example. So
that's
I actually
a fantastic initiative.
Yeah, I attended like 3 or 4 times of those offline events, and the most recent one we had was last October, just in Beijing. We had 60 coaches from LinkedIn and also another company, S&P Global, that we had 60 coaches, and I had a one-on-one coach with 60 international students. The students that are actually going to school in China, in Chinese university, but they're coming from overseas. So usually those are like offline, one-on-one. But during the coronavirus, that we found that most of I would say all of the colleges and universities in China have stopped their classes, and there has been a tremendous challenge for the class of 2020 graduates to find a job. Some of them couldn't even finish their schoolwork because the school has closed. So we actually launched a special version of LinkedIn Coaches, and we have over 100, actually exactly 110 of our LinkedIn China employees participate as coaches, and we mentor like 300 students from all over China, although many of them coming from Hubei province. And during the mentoring session, our coaches helped students prepare their profile or resume, giving them tips for interview, or in some cases just listening to their concerns and provide a compassionate support.
That is such a brilliant idea, Jian. And, on Hey China, Shirley and I would be, of course, really happy to help as well, because mentoring is such an important task and giving back and forward to society and the next generation. So keep us posted if we can help with anything.
So actually, I want to give you a heads up that just because of how overwhelming this our social impact program has been well received by the students, that we're now expanding beyond just LinkedIn employees. So we're going to launch a mentor-mentee program on LinkedIn platform to recruit member volunteers to be mentor for students in China, particularly for the class of 2020 graduates.
And be ready, perhaps.
So that is actually a new product initiative we're launching.
That's
so,
wonderful.
Coming from just a social impact program, just for our employee to give back to the society, we found that our members on the platform are very enthusiastic and want to give to those other members in need. So we're launching this now on platform as a product initiative now.
On balance, the coronavirus supposedly has forced the people to stay more online now on social media, because they cannot go out and meet friends and have physical meetings. And so everybody's online all the time. Do you see that actually as a crisis or an opportunity for LinkedIn in China?
I would say that is an opportunity for us because unlike those restaurants or, they are, heavily depend on customers coming into their store. For us, it has been an online community. I think during the time that we have seen the value that we could provide to our members and customers, I think Billy's team had done great work, for example, in branding. So we, in addition to that social impact linking coach, that we also had a campaign called In It Together. It has been kind of a global branding campaign, In It Together. But I think it is just so appropriate for this moment in China, because I think the meaning behind In It Together is that we say that among all the professionals, whatever you come into it for, like coming into the platform on LinkedIn, we are in this together, like from all professions. But I think in this coronavirus, fighting a coronavirus is just a so appropriate a message that Billy's team developed a campaign that really featured the heroes in this fight against coronavirus, from the doctors, nurses to delivery man. I think the campaign really touched upon both our members and also the Chinese users. So it was, I think, a great moment.
And it shows we are only one humanity. We only have each other.